Hey, the Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit is made possible by Samaritas, which is the state's largest private foster care and adoption agency. But they do a heck of a lot more than that. They've been serving homeless families, persons with disabilities, abused and trafficked women. They're also one of the largest resettlement agencies in the state. They provide market rate and affordable housing for seniors and HUD housing for families. And they also have skilled nursing, memory care, and rehab communities in Grand Rapids, Cadillac, and Saginaw. Samaritas, thanks for their support. Great organization, doing great stuff all around the state. This is the Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit. We are live at the Mackinac Policy Conference, and of course streaming all of this stuff live, and appreciate so many of you. The feedback we've been getting so far has been fantastic. We hope you're enjoying it. And as you know, one of the things I like to do is highlight organizations that do important work around the community, around the state. And the organization I'm about to announce right now, Samaritas, is doing really, really important stuff that a lot of us don't think about all the time. I should put out there, they're a supporter of this program, and I wanted to say thank you very much for that, which is fantastic. But Sam Beals is the CEO at Samaritas. Kelli Dobner, Chief Advancement Officer. Welcome to the Craig Fahle Show. Welcome to the family, Deadline Detroit. We certainly do appreciate it. Your support means a ton to us, and you're keeping this going. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you. So
Nice
happy
to
to
be
be
here.
here.
Well, I think it is important to point out that you guys do a ton of different things. I mean, one, you're Michigan's largest private foster care and adoption agency. Mm-hmm. I don't think a lot of people know that about you. Mm. This is hugely important stuff that constantly people know about it. It's almost like they don't want to think about it a little bit. And Sam, I just want to talk about some of the challenges that this industry is dealing with right now. I mean, foster parents, foster children, we're dealing with issues of aging out of the foster system and how we prepare kids for that when they're 18 years old. Talk a little bit about how things have changed in the industry when it comes to foster care and adoption.
Sure. The primary movement in the past few years has been to do everything we can to keep kids out of foster care.
Yeah.
So a big movement toward resources and staffing and efforts to keep kids in their homes. We've been very involved with that, and others have been as well. It's been very successful. So those kids who do come into the system, we do all we can to work them to permanency as soon as possible, either back home or into an adoptive home. So that's it's been going very well in the sense of being able to shorten the days in care before permanency and having homes there for them, long-term homes. But it's always sobering to see how many kids keep coming into care.
Well, some of the issues that we've been dealing with over the years, obviously, is a high prison population leads to a high foster care population. We are starting to see some changes in mindset about whether or not we give people treatment as opposed to incarceration. Is that having an impact on the number of kids that are coming into the system as we sort of change our thinking around that issue?
I'm sure it will in time. We haven't seen a lot of that directly, but I'm sure it will in time. Sure.
Is that the kind of thing you would advocate for, obviously, if you were had to bend the ear of a couple of legislators up here?
Absolutely. We're in the process of doing that.
Well, very good. and Kelli, from your perspective, too, I mean, adoption is a hugely important process as well. Like I said, a lot of people know about it, but they don't necessarily think about it. What sort of things would make this system work better in Michigan?
Oh, I don't think this
is
goes
an hour-long
long
discussion.
enough.
I mean,
yeah. No. I think so much of it is tied to awareness. And you just mentioned that people don't want to address it. They don't want to look to it, and so it's our job to make sure that they do. And that's particularly true in foster care. You caught us at a really good time, Craig, because Samaritas is leading the way in getting Michigan to really pay attention to fostering kids. A lot of our partner organizations are, but this year we're very excited. May is our Foster Care Awareness Month Blitz. On the state of Michigan. We are really excited to say and announce really publicly on this show that we were successful in working with the Michigan State Legislature to put into effect on May 7th is now Michigan's Foster Care Awareness Day.
Okay.
That hasn't happened before. There's a National Foster Care Awareness Month, but not an actual day within Michigan. And so we've got proclamations from the state, several other cities and counties. We've asked Michigan to go purple. Samaritas, that is our color, in support of that. And the whole idea is to create awareness around fostering kids, because today we're turning away thousands of kids on an annual basis because we don't have enough foster parents to open their homes and their hearts to these children.
So what happens in that situation? What happens when you have to turn somebody away from that? So what is the implication there?
You wanna
More
take-
often than not, they would go to another private agency that hopefully would have a home,
Okay.
and that usually works out well. So because we're the largest provider and have the most homes available, that kind of thing, we're a preferred provider in that sense. But it is challenging to be able to secure foster homes who can make that long-term commitment. And one kind of fun challenge in there is that every year, about half of the kids were able to get out there for adoption or adopted by their foster home. So then we have to replace them. At least for a few years, they would probably not foster, and they might come back. So we're always replacing folks who have adopted kids. That's a wonderful thing.
Oh, yeah, that is great. If they're willing to
is.
do that, that's
That's
pretty
right.
amazing. And that's obviously the best scenario, you'd
Right,
think,
right.
right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's a success story. There are a lot of different things that Samaritas does. Refugee resettlement.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't something a lot of people think about. It's not as if you have a number of people who are coming here and just sort of enjoy America, see you later. I mean, a lot of these people need a lot of help.
Yes.
To resettle. Maybe they've gone through some trauma where they're coming from. They're fleeing a terrible situation. There's a lot that goes into that people don't think about. There aren't a ton of agencies that do it either.
Mm-hmm.
So refugee resettlement, talk about some of the challenges that those people are facing that anybody who's looking at this immigration debate right now needs to consider before they make up their mind on this.
Yeah. Do you want me to?
Either
Sure.
one, it's fine.
Yes.
By the way,
Right now, this is such a huge issue, and we have seen such a decline in refugees that we've been able to serve just because of the travel ban.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're pivoting, and we're working with other organizations or other nations that are going through the same issues that we've typically seen in our Middle Eastern countries, our African nations in particular. But the debate goes on, and when you put yourself in those shoes, fleeing all that you know to live in refugee camps for sometimes 20 plus years. We're working with families that are just now coming to us that have lived in a refugee camp, that have grown up and only known life in a refugee camp, that are coming now here to the United States for a brand new life, is so significant. And in the current contracts that we are under to serve these families, we have 90 days to find homes, employment, transportation, education. It is a lot in a very short amount of time. And I will tell you right now, there's a significant call to action for people to foster these families for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, until an appropriate home can be found for those families. So there's my significant call to action in this space right now.
I think a very effective case that you just made here. I mean, but, look, refugees and people that are fleeing political violence or fleeing whatever situation they're dealing with that are coming here, they also, especially if they're younger, have the possibility of being trafficked in some capacity,
Yes.
Abused in a number
Yes.
of capacities. You guys are also dealing with that population as well. I mean, these things
yes.
go hand in hand. I guess the bigger question is, are we doing enough about it? Do we understand what we need to do and the kind of resources that this takes to prevent this sort of thing from taking place?
so we do provide a lot of trauma counseling. All of our folks are trained in trauma-informed work. We just assume that everyone coming over has been traumatized in any number of ways. So from the get-go, we're providing that service. We also, after the 90 days of resettlement, provide post-resettlement services, which can include counseling, and anything else we can do to work with them, including getting a job or getting a better job, going back to school, getting that degree, getting that certification. Anything we can do to lift them up and help them advance and assimilate as fast as possible.
Assimilation is one of those words that we talk about too when it comes to people moving into the United States. I mean, when we say assimilate, it's not necessarily adopting the culture here. It's finding ways to actually get by, get a job, work, function in the society. But I mean,
Yes.
does it have to go further than that? I mean,
Well,
I don't. I personally, I don't care if they speak English or not. I don't. It doesn't matter to me. And if,
Yeah.
but people get bothered by this stuff.
They do. I would say that's one of the biggest barriers, particularly in the employment space.
Yeah.
The ESL is an important piece of that. But I'll say that our staff is incredible with how they work with the families. And whenever we can put families together in smaller community settings, We will do that because so many of our families come from cultures of socialization, and that is such an important piece. So every night or every Sunday, whatever that is for that culture, it's going from home to home and visiting from family to family. And so when we can create that same experience for them when they're in the United States, we will do that in finding homes that are very close to each other where they can still do that. So yes, the assimilation is a part of the experience organically, I think, but not necessarily part of the protocol.
Okay. That makes sense. I appreciate that. I should remind folks, my guests right now, Sam Beals and Kelli Dobner of Samaritas. We're talking a little bit about their organization, policy issues that we might need to deal with as we're dealing with complex problems. You guys also deal with housing. And I'll tell you what, if you're talking market rate versus affordable housing, I mean, this is a huge raging debate in the city of Detroit right now, affordable housing, and we're seeing a lot of changes take place. I worked at the land bank for several years, of course, and dealt with that. This is becoming a challenge, making sure that there's affordable housing for people that are already existing in communities like Detroit. Grand Rapids is pricing up as well, and I know you guys do a lot of work in that community as well.
Yes.
What are you seeing right now when it comes to that issue, and how big a challenge is it to make sure that this housing options are available for people?
It's both a giant challenge and opportunity. So we have 5 senior living campuses around the state, and 3 of those are market rate. But we also have 15 affordable housing campuses, and 12 of those are for seniors, 2 for families, and 1 for people with disabilities. And we're aggressively pursuing additional campus development. We'll have 2 more applications into MISTA this October 1. One's in Detroit, one's in Muskegon. And we'll just keep doing that, especially in the Detroit area, long term.
You're starting to see an emphasis in the city. Anytime there's a new development project, they're saying, hey, and plus there's minimum 20% affordable for this project that's going in. How important is it to have at least those benchmarks that are written into the policy?
That's standard to have those benchmarks in there. It can be anywhere from 20, many times it's 20, 30, 40, 60, even 80%. But it's really important to have that 20 to 30 percentile range in there for people who really have the greatest need, the fewest resources.
Well, and obviously you're doing this for families and for seniors, which is a population that you also serve a lot of. And again, you've got memory care, rehab communities around the state. I believe Cadillac, Grand Rapids, and Saginaw, if I'm not mistaken. I had a discussion yesterday on this program with someone from Beaumont Health, and we were talking about the need for insurance plans and to cover this kind of care, because families are being bankrupted if a family needs long-term memory care. It's expensive, ungodly expensive.
Yes.
What could change there that's going to improve that process and frankly allow more people to take advantage of these services? Because a lot of people forego it just because they can't afford to do it. And memory care, especially long-term memory care, is something that can greatly improve the quality of somebody's life as they're dealing with this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what would you like to see change there in terms of allowing more people to access that?
We would like to see expanded Medicaid and Medicare coverage, so then folks who don't have the resources could have that access much sooner. That would be very, very helpful. We do have memory care integrated into all of our communities, so we continue to do that, and we'll do that more and more all the time. We hope to add some units next to our Traverse City Independent Assisted Living facility. And so we'll just continue doing that as part of our ongoing growth. It's a vexing challenge. Yeah. So there are, we in particular have been, we've had a high priority for Medicaid folks, whether that's health care, adoption, foster care, et cetera. So that's definitely our leaning. So we're doing as much as we possibly can now, and we'll just keep doing as much as we can going forward.
Well, I should remind folks, Sam Beals and Kelli Dobner from Samaritas, my guests right now on the program. And I want to ask you this question. Coming to a conference like this one, I mean, you do have, it's like fish in a barrel for a journalist, right? Every interview I need is right here. But from your perspective, what do you hope to accomplish while you're up here? What do you need to get done?
Well, I will just say, I think this is just the most exciting conference. Everybody who has a stake in the future health of Michigan is here. So our role here has really just been to create that awareness on so many of these issues that we've talked about today, and be able to influence that policy and be at the table, which we are in so many ways. But when we're all here together, as they said earlier, sequestered on an island with no other place to go.
Sequestered is the right word.
Right.
Exactly.
You must listen, and voices are heard, and relationships are formed, and that makes all the difference in being able to work together. We were in a session earlier talking about working across the aisle and that bipartisanship, and so much of that is true. Nothing's going to get accomplished unless we're collaborating, and this conference is just the summit of that. And so we are thrilled and honored to really be a part of that and have a voice for Samaritas and the thousands of people that deliver the services every day, as well as the people in our care. That voice is critical.
Well, we certainly do appreciate the work that you're doing. It's important stuff, and again, really, really important stuff that people don't think about all the time. But Sam Beals, CEO at Samaritas, and Kelli Dobner, Chief Advancement Officer, we appreciate your time, and thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Craig.
See ya.
Thank you.
And this is the Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit.